So, I made an IEM. Now, before we get into the main part of this video, let me just formally introduce this whole thing to begin with. Y'all probably see me wear this shirt adamantly for the past few videos, and basically yes, I am part co-founder of a brand called Not Brand Acoustics, originally called Not Brand. Why is it called that? Basically, we started off as a passion project where we decided that, we just wanted to mod some stuff to make it sound better to our preference, and things get a little bit, escalated to the point where a lot of people gave us good feedback saying that, hey, y'all should probably sell this. This has very good tuning. This has very good potential in the market. And, after a lot of back and forth with me and my friend, we decided to move on and try to perfect a lot of things, try to improve in a lot of things to the point where we get ourselves to here today. But basically, Not Brand Acoustics is an entity between me and another guy, which y'all mostly associate and know him for as Wang. He is technically the director of Not Brand Acoustics and technically my mentor, because he's the one that literally started me into all of this audio hobby and ruining my 401k plans because I've spent a lot on audio. But okay, with all that aside, one more thing before we talk about the IEMs. Things that we do other than IEMs is basically selling periphery, mainly custom IEM cables. Instead of just doing things for the aesthetic purposes, we do it more for the functionality purposes, which is talking about how a cable could influence a sonic property of an IEM. Back then when we were starting off, we really do not have that much budget. So other than just modding a BLO3, where there is one time in 2022 or 2023, I forgot the timeline, people are definitely going to be very confused as to why we always want to buy BLO3s, mainly because we started modding with that IEM, and definitely we like that tuning. And basically what we did is that we just waited to the point where we got a little bit more capital from selling some cables to make our stuff in a resin form, and this is what we have today. This is called the Not Brand Pursuer of Emotions. This thing is basically being debuted as the first IEM from Not Brand Acoustics. We are going to let you know that this is our personal preference as well as our identity in this whole audiophile scene. We showcase this as our preference of an ideal tuning between me and Wang. It is currently being driven by only a single DD. Mainly this is started off as a limitation because, like I said, we don't have that much capital, nor do we have the expertise back then. But we would say that that is a blessing in disguise, because now we are able to push the limits of a single DD driver to its maximum. This thing is an 11mm beryllium single DD. Currently right now it is being housed in a nice fit resin and lacquer. Why did I say lacquer? Lacquer. Basically, we've also tested a few types of resin, and all I could say is that resin can also affect the acoustic properties of an IEM. We landed on Nice Fit, which technically has the best acoustic properties that we could find, at least for ourselves. And definitely we want the best of everything. We have decided to go with the SpinFit Omni tips as the default tips, mainly because this thing does not colorize anything. I would say it is the most neutral profile tip that we have that does not have any significant sonic alterations to our tuning. And last but not least, talking back about cables, this is the cable that is being paired with it. Now, we pride ourselves initially into curating good cables that have very good sonic properties to everyone. This thing, by far, after testing like nearly 30 different types of cables with different materials, this is what we landed on. We call this the Not Brand Soul, which is very, very complimentary to the Pursuer of Emotions, and this thing is rocking a pure silver and OFC combination. The main sonic property is just one thing and one thing only: to boost the mids. And all I could say is that this thing is definitely the best that we could find so far. But definitely if we find something better, we are going to definitely replace this with that thing as well, because we just want the best tuning as possible that we can. And speaking of the tuning that I always talk about, what is our ideal tuning? Our ideal tuning for the Not Brand Pursuer of Emotions is basically a neutral bass tuning as a foundation with a lot of sub bass, mid bass, and lower bass presence without the amplitude going up so high. Very, very good forward mids and sparkly treble. Now, before I go into a little bit more detail about all of these stuff, just know that I am going to be as unbiased as possible in this video, but remember this is not me reviewing an IEM. This is just me explaining to you what our tuning philosophy is. So keep all of that with what I said in mind. Now, with the bass, like what I say, we want the sub bass, lower bass, and the mid bass to have presence, but we don't want it to be amplified. What we mean by that is that think of a neutral bright tuning with a slight sub bass boost. We want things to basically encompass the whole area that you are listening to. We want it to fill up the room. We do not want it to be blatantly punching you. We do not have a very, very strong punchy bass, but we have something that basically diffuses very, very perfectly throughout the whole room. That is what we are aiming for. And going on to the mids, we both are quite vocal centric people. We want things that sound quite forward, very intimate, but not too in your face. Vocals are being made to the best of our abilities to sound as natural as possible, as well as having body. I'm just going to be very, very honest here, just to let you guys know that we're not BSing anybody. Body can be a little bit more better than what we have now, but I'm confident in saying that this thing has more body in the vocals than the Z1R. And when we're talking about instruments, everything will be sounding as tonally clean and true as possible. Everything will definitely still be sounding forward, but not too forward. It is going to complement everything, but we will be focusing a lot on vocals being on the front end. And finally, talking about the treble, like I say, we want things to be very bright. We want things to be very, very sparkly. But we try our best, and we definitely have done our best to have little to no sibilance. But even though I said this, we have a few people, which is quite a funny story. They say that our stuff is too sibilant, but apparently something along the lines of the Moondrop Starfield 2 is too muddy on the mids and the highs. Anyways, we're not going to throw shade on people here. This is a very formal video. Talking back about this, what we mainly pride more than our tuning is definitely the technicalities. The technicalities, I'll give you guys a very small story which basically covers everything. During the year prior, or basically weeks prior to Not Brand being founded, we went to an audio show, me and my friend, and we met the one and only Mr. Lee from Elysian Acoustics. Like, he shared to us a lot of his stuff, and we were basically very enamored with his findings and stuff like that. But one thing that stuck to us the most is because back then, 2 months ago, my friend just got his Z1R, and the moment that he said this, we're like, what the hell are you on? Looking back now, it actually makes a lot of sense, because it was literally like seconds before I personally tested the Elysian Annihilator. He told us that the Z1R is sounding quite narrow, which is why he made the Elysian X, and which is why he made the Elysian Annihilator. Looking back to what he said now, and as for the moment I tried on the Elysian Annihilators, the rest is history. And using the Z1R as a reference, we tried our best to tune this to the best of our abilities in terms of one thing: soundstage. We pride a lot in soundstage for technicalities, mainly because we want this whole thing to be sounding as immersive as possible, because this is very, very influenced by us going to audio shows and looking at speaker systems, looking at home theater systems. All those things have one thing in common, and it is that feeling that you are very, very spacious and being in an enclosed area. Like, it's being played everywhere. That's why we are so focused on soundstage, and we tried our best to replicate that. And definitely we're still not missing out on dynamics, imaging, and separation. Everything of that, I could assure you that we have made it to the best of our abilities, to the point where we could also kill some kilobucks. The only one thing that I will say about this, which is one thing that my partner is still not happy about, the resolution of this IEM is definitely slightly worse than the Z1R, which is still being put into a very high regard, considering that the Z1R is a tribrid and this thing is only a single DD. But again, this is basically the limitations of a single DD, where we can't push that much out of it anymore. Resolution is something that is more hardware focused. If we were to release something that has a multi-driver config in the future, this thing could be easily solved. When that time comes, I'll make another video when that IEM drops. But let's just say it's still in a very, very early process where, you know, we're just talking about it while we're having lunch. We're not even deciding on, you know, multi-drivers yet. But anyways, just as a very short summary, this thing is the Nah brand acoustics pursuer of emotion. This is being debuted as the first IEM by us, and we have a neutral bright tuning with a sub-bass boost presence to it. On the presence, not the amplitude. It is rocking an 11mm beryllium DD, and it is being fitted with an internal cable courtesy of Astro Acoustics, OCC copper, and finally it is being encased in a nice fit resin and lacquer. Of all that being said, if anyone is within Malaysia and they would like to try this, we are trying our best to push this into some retail stores soon. And if you are keen on trying this out, feel free to reach us out on our Facebook page and we'll get in touch with you as soon as possible. And with that being said, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.